Hello guys, and welcome to the first section of our Intro to DOM tutorial. In this part, we're just going to explore a little bit about what the DOM is and how to use it and gain a general understanding, and then we'll explore how the DOM represents a real web page, probably by pulling up zenva.com, hence why I have my browser open already. So you don't have to type anything out in this section, just follow along with these notes. I think I've provided you with this text file. It's called Intro to DOM. But we're just going to be doing mostly talking and then examining here. We're not going to type any code yet. So we know that the DOM is short for the Document Object Model, but what exactly does this mean to us? Well, essentially, the DOM provides a way to represent the entire HTML page in a tree-like format. So this means that every HTML element, so this could be divs, this could be maybe list elements, inputs via text fields or buttons, forms, everything that comprises a web page, these are all part of this big tree, with the document as the root or the parent. Now, trees are a pretty fundamental data structure to computer science, where there's generally some root node, and then there'll be a bunch of nodes coming out of that root node, each of which are considered to be children of that parent node. Now those children can themselves be parents, which means they'd have other children of their own, so we get this kind of branch-like structure, hence the term tree. In our case, like I said, the document is the root node, or the parent node, and all other HTML elements, which are considered nodes in the tree, those are going to be children either directly descended from the document, or they could be part of a branch. Now at this point you might be asking, okay, so what if we can represent the HTML page in a tree-like format? We can already see that from the way that HTML is structured, whereas like stuff like inner divs might be considered children of some kind of a parent div. Well, the DOM in particular allows us to add in JavaScript to build interactive web pages. So this means our web pages are no longer static and just a way to display information. We can have elements move around, resize, reshape, maybe change color. We can show or hide elements, or even add or remove elements from the web page. All done on the fly, so completely interactively and maybe triggered by other events. The best part about this is that there's actually no extra libraries that are needed to perform any of the setup, as was the case until fairly recently. All we need to do is open up a script tag in the HTML page. Typically we stick this at the bottom of the body, and then we just write any kind of JavaScript we want within that script tag to access any of the HTML elements within our page. And not just access, we can completely manipulate them, so it allows for easy alteration of our web page at runtime. So major aspects of the DOM might include doing stuff like retrieving and modifying elements, retrieving and modifying element attributes, adding stuff like event listeners to be triggered upon certain events such as a button click or text entry, and building interactive forms, which is why the next few sections are going to be covering those topics, just so that we can explore every section of the DOM in greater detail. So enough of me just talking and showing you these notes. Let's actually see the DOM in action. Let's pull up our browser here, and I'm just going to set this to full screen. We're going to go to zenva.com. Okay. And as you can see, let's say no thanks. This page already, you can kind of start to gain an understanding of how it might be structured. For example, we have some kind of a menu bar up top, which has a bunch of buttons, has a couple of flags, and it has a bunch of links here. So this might be some kind of a root node with a bunch of child nodes here, which are probably all just references or links. But this top here, this header, might itself be a child of a bigger container node, which has a header, a body, and maybe even a footer down here. Again, the footer has multiple elements of its own, and even within the body we can see that, okay, we have 3 panels here, we also have this header here, and then within these panels we have some text, we have an image, we have a button, and so on and so forth. So you can kind of gain a feel for how the tree-like structure might actually be structured. If we want to see exactly how it's coded out, then we can open up our developer tools. By clicking on the 3 dots here, we'll go to More Tools, and we'll open up what's called the Developer Tools. So this will automatically bring up the code that comprises this web page. This might be kind of in the middle. I've just shoved it off to the side because I'm more interested in this HTML rather than the style sheet. So the developer tools are absolutely fantastic because we can examine any website that we want. So this is called website inspection. So it doesn't just have to be Zenva. We can examine the top level websites such as Facebook or Google and see how they've structured everything. You can also make modifications if you'd like, but those obviously won't be saved in the real web page. Those will just be used for demonstration purposes here. Now you can also choose different device sizes and the size of your screen as well. So the other great thing about the inspection tools is that if you hover over an element, it actually highlights where the element is on the web page. So for example, I have my header top div up here. Let me zoom out for showing you guys. As soon as I hover over top of it, you can see that this is kind of grayed out now. And that's because that is that element there. It's this div with the class header top. Just like this guy might be under the class content. And it exactly is. So just to help us understand the branch-like structure, let's just examine our header up top here. So it's all under this div with the class header top. If we open it up, then we see there's a class container. Okay? If we open that class up, then we see we have a div class row. We open that up, we have this div class with this menu top. We can open that up, so we're going pretty deep at this point. And then we have this unordered list, which we open up, and then we have all of these elements here. So we've got the two flags, and then we've got a bunch of links. So in our case, the root node, well, I mean the root node is actually the document, but then the document itself has head and body. The body is itself a parent of all of these nodes. So this has a child and then becomes a parent because this has a child also, so is a parent, and so on and so forth. So this is just one branch of our overall document. How we would actually communicate with the HTML is again through the script tag down here. So if we open this guy up, then you can see there's some event listeners, there's get document by ID here. So these are just ways to retrieve our documents. This will add some actual event listeners. This is the load event. And then you can see that we can modify, or we can not only retrieve the element, but we can modify certain attributes. So setting style attributes, hiding or displaying attributes, and so on and so forth. So just to quickly break down what's going on here. This is saying as soon as the window loads, we're adding this event listener to it. This is the load trigger here, so this is the load event, and when that occurs we're executing this function. Now this is making sure that our client width is greater than 780 pixels. So if it's anything less than this, we execute different behavior. If it's greater than this, then we're executing all of this stuff. So we're basically guessing the elements by their IDs. So any element that has this ID within our HTML page will be retrieved when we call upon this function getElement by its ID. And then we're just getting the style attribute, the top attribute from there, and then we're just setting that to a different value. Similarly, we're setting the height, the display to be block, and the style top of a different element. These next two lines are guessing an element and adding what's called an event listener to it. So just like before, when this window loads, we're triggering this. Well, for this case, when the user clicks upon this, it's probably a button. Then we are executing this code here. In our case, it's just kind of hiding some element. And then same with the next one down here. Okay, so all of this JavaScript code is communicating with our document object model through the use of this document variable. And that's generally how we begin most of our communication, is by getting the document and then getting elements via various different ways. And that's actually going to be the next topic we explore, is how to retrieve elements using a variety of different methods. So before you move on, what I would recommend you do is just kind of examine this web page a little further, maybe pull up some of your favorite web pages and use the developer tools just to kind of gain a feel for how they might be structured, take a look at some of the JavaScript and try and figure out what's going on. And when you're ready to start writing some of your own code, we'll move on to the next section, in which we're going to explore again how to retrieve elements using about 5 different methods.